Welcome to Funnel Hacker Radio Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top entrepreneurs are using to make more sales, dominate their markets, and how you can get those same results. Here's your host, Dave Woodward.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I am so excited. There's so much crazy, cool, fun, exciting things happening here at our home office. Just got back from a week spending time with family. The week before that was our Funnel Hacking Live event, so it's just been a crazy, crazy time. But there's so much exciting stuff happening, and I just want to make sure that I share as much as I possibly can here. So what ended up happening on the last week of March was I ended up coming back from Funnel Hacking Live, literally came back on Sunday, or flew in late Sunday, and by Monday we were packed up and heading down to Moab to participate in spring break. And the week right before Easter down in Moab is the annual Jeep Safari. And this is a fun, crazy, crazy event where literally thousands and thousands of Jeep owners come in from around the country. Everything from having 3 and 4 Jeeps being towed in, driving their own Jeeps in, all with the intent of just kind of coming together as a community and experiencing nature and all the fun, exciting things about that. So while I was there, I had the opportunity of spending time with my 2 youngest sons, Christian and Jackson, and my wife. And the 4 of us were just there. And it was a ton of exciting times for me, primarily because my boys love being out in the wilderness, and especially anything at all associated with Jeeps. My wife loves being outside and just participating in nature. And so it was just a fun time to connect with my family, especially after having worked like crazy during Funnel Hacking Live and almost the entire first 3 months of this year. So we ended the 3 months really with this massive opportunity of kind of celebration and excitement. And while I was there, I had the opportunity of talking with both my boys and my wife, actually, about just business ideas that were coming to me while we were actually on this Jeep Safari. So I wanted to kind of just spend just a few minutes here talking about some of the things that I learned and experienced while I was there, and hopefully this will help you in your own business. There's really no order specifically as far as importance on the things I wanted to kind of share here, as much as I wanted to really let you guys know just kind of how it all unfolded. So this isn't in any specific order. It was more just as far as how the events kind of came about. So we were down there. First day we spent time just out mountain biking, having just a ton of fun out there, and then we ended up coming into town, and what had happened was usually we end up taking my son's Jeep down to Moab. We did that last year and had a lot of fun doing it. This year was a little different because he wanted to have lockers put on his Jeep, and so for spring break and for his birthday, we basically treat him to we're having some lockers put on his Jeep. And the company that I'm having do it here in Boise is the same company that I worked with to create Russell's Funnel Hacker Jeep. So we dropped it off at, the company's name is Bucks 4x4, so we dropped it off at his place. And when I dropped it off, the guys basically said, hey, you know what, Jeff, the owner, is going to be down in Moab too. I said, oh, great, you know what, there's thousands of people down there. I doubt we'll run into them, but if we do, it'll be a lot of fun. Well, we get there, and they had called ahead and told Jeff that we were going to be down there. So Jeff reaches out to me and says, hey, Dave, is there any chance you guys are going to be available on Wednesday, and if so, let me know. So I said, yeah, you know what, I'm sure we could. We'll figure something out. So the first thing I want to talk to you about here is the power of who you know and your network. So we went down there with the intent really of just renting razors for a couple of days and having fun out there, and then also just doing a lot of mountain biking. But my son Christian's favorite thing in the world to do is to drive a Jeep and to be out there really experiencing that. And so I want to the first topic here again is understanding the power of your network. And for me, I'd had the opportunity of working with Jeff quite a bit on a whole bunch of things related obviously to Russell's Jeep as well as to my son Christian's Jeep. But more important than that, I'd had the opportunity of talking to him about what ClickFunnels does and some of the things that might be of value to him and his business. So again, I didn't do it for any intent of trying to get something out of it. It was just more, he was asking marketing ideas and suggestions and tips and things, and so I was just kind of giving those to him. So the only reason I mention this is while we're there, he ends up reaching out and saying, hey, Dave, would you mind just coming out and going on a photo shoot with us, and then you can take one of our Jeeps, and you and your family can just go out and have some fun with us doing some crazy, fun, exciting things. Well, Christian was just like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. We'll cancel everything. I want to go. And so, sure enough, we spent the time and contacted Jeff, and it just worked out that we were able to do that. The place we were supposed to go for the photo shoot, the guys didn't show up, and so he said, you know what, forget it. We'll go out and we'll just go four-wheeling. Well, you have to understand, this is Jeff's passion. It's his life. It's been his livelihood for literally most of his life. And so the guys we're going out with each one of them owns their own modification company, or they own a company that has a product or service totally focused on the Jeep industry. So these guys were highly extreme guys who, when we talked about going four-wheeling, this isn't your typical four-wheeling, dirt and sand and all that kind of stuff. This was more rock crawling type of thing. This is where we literally were going down things that were, first of all, going up things that I really didn't think a Jeep was going to be able to get up, and yet at the same time going down things where I'm in someone else's Jeep, and so I'm super, super cautious, going, oh my gosh, I just don't want to do anything wrong to this thing. It was a brand new Jeep, had 2,000 miles on it. They had just built this Jeep, and so it was cool that they trusted us with this for me and my family to go out and do this. So first thing is, understand the power of your network is your net worth, and this has been said a million times, but I really encourage you guys, start doing things that provide value to other people. And as you do that, you'll find that it increases your network a ton. The second thing is, while we were out there, one of the guys had a rock crawling machine he'd created where it literally had 60-inch tires, and this machine was built for nothing else besides just crawling through a ton of rocks, just huge, huge rocks. And we were following him. I was like, oh my gosh. So we've got 5 Jeeps all on this road, following through this rock crawling experience. And the one thing that Jeff as well as Ron, this other guy, had both said is, Dave, the most important thing I can tell you is you have to stay committed. And I thought, man, it was funny because Christian, my son, goes, Dad, that's like an awesome experience just for life. It's a great thing to experience in life, is the importance of that lesson as far as staying committed. And what we were talking about is you have to pick a line. So if you're climbing up rocks and everything else, you've got to pick a line and you've got to stick to it and you have to stay committed. It says the problem where people get hurt when they're rock crawling and doing this extreme type of four-wheeling is they start changing their mind of where they're going to go, and they make stupid turns, or they let up on the gas, and instead of just continuing staying committed and going through it. He said these Jeeps and these machines are built to go through this. He says we're not going to put you in any situation that's going to get you hurt, but whatever line we pick, you have to stay committed to it, even if you don't personally believe you can do it. He says if you'll stay committed, the machine will get you through it, and if you listen to us and follow our line and follow what we're talking about, you'll make it. And I really have a terrible ego thing of I just rarely ever say no to a challenge, and so I'm like, I'm all in. Totally. I will stay committed no matter what you guys put me through. I'm going through this thing. And it was just a great experience to see my boys understand the importance of staying committed. So in business, once you pick a line and you're going to go for it, keep going. It's so easy to quit or think, oh, I just don't think I can do it, and you give up. When you give up is when you find yourself getting hurt the most. So staying committed was the second lesson that we learned. The third one was the importance of communication. Communication is key, especially in stressful environments. And I think this is one of the things that a lot of people, they don't spend the time and the energy that they need on understanding the importance of communication, of learning how to communicate effectively with people. So realize when we were crawling through these rocks, it's not that we were going super fast, but the problem was a wrong turn to the right or to the left literally would break an axle. The Jeep could roll. I mean, this was one of those crazy rock climbing type of experiences in a Jeep that you literally had to do everything right. And so it was fascinating to me that it wasn't turn your wheels to the right or turn your wheels to the left. They changed that to where the communication was passenger or driver. And so every turn was, hard right was never ever used. It was hard passenger, a little more to the passenger, because everyone knows when you're driving, it was really easy in a Jeep. You know which side the passenger and the driver's side is, but people always mix up their right and their left. And so I found it fascinating that the importance of communication and language. And so while we were out there, we had this great experience of learning the importance of really staying committed And then understand when you're communicating with people to use language that takes away all ambiguity. And so as a driver, it was really easy to understand which side was my driver's side and which side was the passenger. And so they would say passenger, 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 or 3 more inches driver, driver, 3 more inches driver. It was just fascinating to me to see how that was all doing. The next thing then was the importance of a mentor. And you've heard me talk about this a million times, but the power of a mentor is one of the things I have always believed throughout my entire life. You will get so much further in life by following someone who has already been there before you or who can see what you can't see. And this was one of the things that was really quite fascinating to me, because here we had Ryan who basically had this rock clawing machine, 60-inch wheels that literally could go over everything and anything. Well, we started going down this one area that literally there was no way in the world the other machines were going to make it. They just they weren't built for this. So here's a guy who's got tons of experience, and you'd think he'd be able to do it all himself. And the very first thing he said is, listen, I need someone to guide me through this. And so what ends up happening is we got another person who's got a ton of experience as well, stands in front of him, and is able to see what he can't see, just because of how high the rocks were and just the awkwardness of where it was. And it was one of those things where it wasn't always continuing going forward. Sometimes it was stop, you've got to go back, you've got to get realigned for this. You got to get a different line. You can't take that line. And so the idea here, and really what we learned, was the importance of understanding if you go with people who can see what you can't see, your success will be a million times greater. The fascinating thing to me, though, actually was the roles became reversed in about 15 minutes, where Ron now became the guide for the guy who has been Ron's guide. So here you would think, well, the person who was guiding Ron the first time as he was going through it would know exactly where to go. But again, even though he'd had the experience of guiding Ron, when he's driving it, it's a totally different experience. He couldn't see. And so because of that, he had to get help from Ron, who could see where he was going. So in your life right now, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, realize there's people who have gone before you who you can either hire and who can guide you through that, or there's other people who may have experiences that you don't have, and they will see things that you can't see. So be humble enough to be willing to take that kind of advice, and more importantly, seek it out. Find people who have gone before you and who basically give you that type of advice and making sure things work. Well, that was one experience. This next experience was a crazy, crazy, crazy experience where one of the experiences down there in Moab is this ride called Hell's Revenge. Here, now instead of Jeeps, we were in Razors, and we were racing all over this place. And with a Razor, you can go a lot of places the Jeep can't go just because of the suspension and everything else. But the flip side is also true, just due to the size of the tires and the suspension and everything else. There are certain things there's no way in the world a Razor is going to attempt. Well, as we were going through Hell's Revenge, there's one place where they said, listen, you cannot go down Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate is one of the places you just cannot do in a Razor. And we're like, oh, no problem. So we get to Hell's Gate, and Hell's Gate is about a 150 to 200 foot climb. And it's all the vertical is just crazy because you literally are using your tires on the sides of the walls to climb up these huge, crazy rocks up to the top of, you're going through Hell's Gate to get up to the top. Well, we came around this corner, and for some reason we decided we'd just go take a look to see if anyone was coming up. Well, as we go over there, we look down this 150, 200 foot drop, and there's a guy who had flipped his Jeep, and he's on its side, and he's now just starting to walk up. And we're like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Just totally freaking out. I mean, this is a huge Jeep with probably close to 60-inch tires as well. But because he took the wrong line and everything else, he had flipped. And it's on its side, and he was able to get out, but the way it's positioned, there's no way in the world this Jeep is getting out by itself. And so he came up, he's in complete shock, has no idea what's going on, and he's asking for help. He goes, I'm okay, but I don't know how I'm going to get out of here. So I then took off on a Razor and went to go get another Jeep or something to help. And it was fascinating to me. Just keep this real quick here. We ended up getting one Jeep that was way too small. But by having that one Jeep sitting there, it kind of became an alarm to all the other Jeeps that were driving by. Well, all of a sudden, we now have probably about 10 or 15 other Jeeps who were all sitting there, and now crowds are gathering on both sides, up and down the cliffs, dying to see what's going to happen here. The amazing thing to me was the importance of confidence, and that's really the lesson I want to bring up here as far as the business tip I'd learned here, and that was all of a sudden this one guy walks up and says, hey buddy, don't worry, we'll get you out of here. And it was the confidence and the way this guy said it where it put everyone else's mind at ease. It was the most bizarre, weird experience. He had such confidence, he knew exactly what was going to happen. And literally within just a matter of minutes, he brought 3 other Jeeps into position. All of a sudden, we've got 3 winches going down this cliff, tying into this guy's Jeep. And it wasn't just tying into it, it had to be in certain places. And he literally was guiding each one of the winches and where it had to connect to, and making sure that it wasn't on an axle, that it was on a B column, and making sure that everything was done safely. This is a guy who had such massive confidence in what he was doing to help this other guy get out that the instant leadership, everyone else just basically sat back because this guy knew exactly what he was doing. My only reason mentioning that is to understand there are certain things in your life where you're going to find that confidence, even if this guy didn't know exactly what to do, because of how confident he was, it put everyone else's mind at ease. And when you're a leader or as an entrepreneur and you're guiding your company, realize that there are times when it may look like that Jeep is going to roll and it's going to go down 100 feet to the bottom and just be smashed into oblivion, where you literally everyone else is looking to you, and you've got to have the confidence to help them to feel a little comfortable, if nothing else, that, you know what, listen, I know this looks like the Jeep is going to fall. I know it looks like this product's not going to launch. I know everything is stacked against us, but trust me, I know what we're doing here, and we're going to make it through. And it was just fascinating for me to see, because of how confident he was, everyone else's mind was so put at ease, and the intensity of the emotions, where everyone's hearts were just palpitating. Oh my gosh, this thing's some people could die here. I mean, it was a crazy, crazy situation. Everyone's mind was put at ease. The next thing I learned was the importance of teamwork. And it was fascinating to me where literally this guy who had all this confidence brought in 3 Jeeps and had each one of them. He basically told them exactly where to go to make sure that the line from their winch down to his Jeep was set up properly. And everyone basically listened to this guy, and they all worked together as a team to where literally these 3 Jeeps pulled this other Jeep up 100 feet up this crazy rock cliff, and without destroying the Jeep. It was fascinating to me. I was like, oh my gosh, it was crazy. And so my only reason to mention that is to understand the value of a team. We started off with just 1 Jeep. And I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you start off as just a solopreneur. And when you're that solopreneur, you literally, as much as you want to do it, sometimes you just can't do it by yourself. And all of a sudden, when the 1 Jeep was pulled away and we brought 3 other Jeeps in, those 3 Jeeps together it wasn't just the power of 1, it was the power of all 3 of them became more like the power of 10 or 15 or 20 people pulling this Jeep up. And I think it's important as an entrepreneur to understand in business, don't be afraid to work as a team. And whether that's when you're first starting off and you're outsourcing different things, you don't have to do it all. Don't try to be that solopreneur. The next thing we learned was the importance of culture. And we joke a ton about in ClickFunnels here about the idea as far as culture and really kind of building that cult. But when you're sitting there in Moab and all you are seeing are thousands and thousands of Jeeps, all you see are Jeeps. I'm sure it would be very similar to going to a Harley-Davidson convention or to go to Sturgis, and anybody who doesn't have a Harley is kind of feeling like they're just out of place. It was the same situation here. If you didn't have a Jeep, you totally felt out of place. If you had I saw some Land Cruisers, or I saw some trucks where they literally just didn't fit in, and it was just fascinating to me to see how important the whole Jeep culture was. You got thousands of Jeeps, and everyone wants to belong to this whole Jeep culture. Yet the irony to it was, as much as everyone wants to belong to that culture, everybody also wants to be somewhat unique. And every Jeep had its own modifications. Every Jeep had its own things that were unique. So they all started off as a Jeep, but everything, even though they were part of the same culture, they all had done unique things to help themselves stand out. And I think that's what makes ClickFunnels and our community so much fun, is everyone works together as a culture culture, but at the same time, everyone has their own products, their own services, their own things that are unique to them. So those were 7 of the business tips that I learned from the Jeep Safari. One bonus I'm going to toss in here, and that is just the power of getting out in nature. My wife loves studying yoga and chakras and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure she knows a ton more than I do on this kind of deal as far as chakras and the importance of being grounded and all that kind of stuff. I can just tell you that when you're out in nature, it just clears your head. You receive inspiration. I came back so overly excited to get back into work, but also just motivated with a ton of new ideas and suggestions and things that we can do that's going to help us build ClickFunnels even that much faster. So I would highly recommend that you guys, especially, I've spent a lot of time in big cities and I love the excitement of a big city, but there's just something powerful about getting out in nature. And even right now, I'm barefoot here in the office. I love walking around barefoot. I love having my feet touch the ground. I love just getting dirty and having fun being out in nature and experiencing that kind of stuff. I just believe there's so much health and vitality. This planet was created for us to enjoy and to get to know it better. And I think the importance of us personally spending time out in nature at times these days kind of gets, everything's all about virtual reality and everything else. There's nothing more important to me than actually experiencing real reality of getting your feet in the dirt and the sand and just having fun. And I'd encourage you guys to take some time, get involved in nature, take a break from what you're doing, and just enjoy it. Again, I thank you guys so very much for all that you guys do to support us at ClickFunnels. But me personally, I can't express enough gratitude as I was at Funnel Hacking Live and had so many people come up to me and comment that they had listened to this podcast. It really touched me a ton. I'll do a different podcast more about that. But for those of you who listen, I do want you to know how much I appreciate it. I hope you have the best of luck in all that you're doing with your work and your business and your dreams and everything that you're going for. Know that you do matter to us here at ClickFunnels, but most importantly, you matter to the people that you serve, and you have a mission. And I just would hope that as you're out there that you're going for and you're doing everything you possibly can to serve those people who you've got God-given talents to do. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. One of the things that means a ton to me is the personal reviews that you guys leave on iTunes. If you wouldn't mind going out, rate the show. Let me know how I'm doing. Just go to iTunes, click on the episode, and rate it. Leave a comment. I read all the comments. I appreciate all the stars and everything everyone already left for me. Again, I really appreciate it, and it's my way of finding out how I'm doing. So if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for all that you guys do. Have a great day.